So, with the announcement of the A's possibly moving to Vegas, the next big question for the MLB: what happens to the Tampa Bay Rays, and how has their current season possibly saved this franchise and really helped them secure funding for a new stadium? Let's get into the current situation. Attendance has been so good at the Trop this season that the Rays are opening their upper deck versus the Yankees next weekend. And guys, this is a major development for Tampa Bay. I believe they're just going to keep it open all season now. Of course, we know versus the Yankees, there's a lot of Yankees fans that retire in Florida, so there's going to be a big Yankee presence at these games. But the Rays have gotten off to such a great start. Their attendance, even in regular season weeknight games early in this season, has shown a pretty significant improvement, or at least a little bit of an improvement, to the point where they're ready to open the upper deck. And, this is great news for the Rays. Now, there has been growing optimism that the Rays will stay in Tampa Bay. This actually started back in January when news broke that they had secured the rights to look for a stadium in St. Petersburg. And then we have this article that recently came out a few days ago. How are the Rays' hopes for a new stadium impacted by the Las Vegas move of the Athletics? So how does the A's Vegas deal impact the Rays' efforts? Their possibilities to get a new home. There was an eye on them and an eye on us. So when and if that deal happens, it'll be two eyes on us, the Rays principal owner saying in a quote. And yeah, I completely agree. The Vegas move was the first domino for the MLB. Now all the focus is going to shift to Tampa Bay. And then once the Tampa Bay situation gets sorted out, likely them putting plans in place, agreeing and breaking ground on a new stadium, then we will get the expansion really kicked into gear, probably in 2024, I could say. It says the Rays are working hard on a deal of their own, seeking to negotiate an agreement by the end of 2023 to build a new $1.2 billion stadium adjacent to the current Tropicana Field site as part of a massive development of the surrounding historic gas plant district. So this actually kind of surprised me. I really didn't realize the Rays were this committed to staying in St. Petersburg. It seems like the narrative surrounding St. Petersburg is really bad. People say it's very hard to get to, especially commute to for like a 6:40 game or a 7 o'clock game on a weeknight. But it does seem like they're trying to get $1.2 billion, which is a lot of money for a new stadium. But with inflation, and with this stadium having a roof, maybe it's retractable, maybe it's fixed, it's the going rate. This is what you're going to pay unless you really want to downscale it. It's going to cost a lot of money. MLB stadiums and especially NFL stadiums are going to be in the billions pretty much from here on, unless we start like burning money. It's only going to keep going up because inflation is so ridiculous. We've been focused on St. Petersburg and it's moving forward. We continue to have conversations. We talk to people today. We talked this week. We're working behind the scenes to do everything we can, and we seem to be making progress. The Rays deal requires two agreements to be worked out, one for the stadium and one for the entire 86-acre project, which includes housing, retail, restaurants, bars, entertainment venues, and is headed up by a global firm. So yes, this is the other thing we're starting to see when it comes to new stadiums. They develop the area around it and they make a major investment into putting in new restaurants, good parking, things like that. So it seems like that's what they're doing, and that's kind of driving up the price on this overall project to around $1.2 billion. The stadium deal is obviously key, and it looks like they're trying to, get a little partnership there. You can see the Rays also started a Randyland seating area in left field for Friday home games in honor of one of the Rays' best players, Randy Arozarena. We remember him. He was the playoff god back during the pandemic in 2020. And, listen, their attendance is improving to the point where they're opening their upper deck because of this historically great start they're off to. This is really going to help them in terms of momentum if the attendance keeps up and they start averaging, maybe on their Friday games in the summer, if you can get it up to like 26 or 27,000. Right now, with the upper deck closed, the Trop only seats 25K, but if they open it, it goes up to 34K, and then if they pull the tarps off, which I don't think they'll do, but if they did, it would go up to like 42K. So, you would expect it to, it'll be interesting with the Yankees in town. Again, a lot of these people are going to be Yankees fans. Let's just be honest about it. They've just got a huge community down in Florida. So either way, this is really good news for them. And then I did see this little, stat on the bottom. The Rays on Monday were guests for the smallest non-2020 crowd in the 21 season history of Cincinnati's Great American Ballpark, 7,000 people, the lowest attendance ever for Cincinnati, and it is just so sad what's happened to Cincinnati baseball. They have such a great community there. I remember back in 2013, 2014, because of the Battle of Ohio, when the Guardians or when the Indians would play there, I mean, they would just get great attendance. They would get 35,000 for weeknight games. With Joey Votto in his prime, it just sucks to see what happened to Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati baseball needs to be good, but I really don't see with their current situation how they're going to improve all that much based on their current roster talent. They need some type of superstar like a Julio Rodriguez type talent, but I did see that, and it's just Cincinnati is a really good baseball town, and it's sad to see that. Now, I will show the renderings of the most recent proposal. It's actually pretty hard to find the correct renderings because there's been so many. I actually had a video showing like maybe 15 different stadium ideas for a replacement to Tropicana Field. Well, this is the most recent one, and it's some type of dome structure. Doesn't look retractable. It looks like a fixed roof to me. And you can see there's also photos of the redesigned district with restaurants, apartments, social spaces, bars, all that type of stuff. That goes into the $1.2 billion located adjacent to their current location at Tropicana Field. And this seems like if they can secure this stadium deal by the end of 2023, all of the focus will shift onto the MLB expanding with two teams, possibly Nashville and then a team out west or maybe a team in Texas by, I would say, like 2028 or 2029. But that would be down the line. So this is the next step for the MLB. And certainly you have to just be more and more optimistic if you are a Rays fan that they will not be leaving, considering the fact that they are opening their upper deck, the fact that they are a really good team right now. They signed Wander Franco to that massive mega extension that's going to be really good. I do not know why young superstars keep doing this. I understand in MLB, you're a prospect, you make your debut, you've got a lot of years until you hit free agency, but, I mean, we saw Acuna do it, Albies do it, I think Corbin Carroll did it. These players are just getting taken to the woodshed in these contracts with teams where the teams basically say, listen, we have the leverage over you because, we own your next 5 or 6 years. We can up your pay by $8 or $9 million. The issue is they'll tack on, an extra 2 or 3 years, and now you're stuck in a contract through your age 30 season when you could have been a free agent getting paid $45 million per year starting at your age 26 or 27 season. It's a very smart idea by these smaller market teams. Actually, this is what we've seen Atlanta do, who really is not a smaller market team. But they make these huge deals with like players that have just been in the MLB for 1 year because they have leverage, because they have like 6 or 7, or not 6 or 7, but like 4 or 5 years left on, their contracts when they come up, because that's how the MLB is, and they've got arbitration and things like that. And they say, listen, we will give you an immediate pay raise. Because of the way MLB contracts work, you'll be making $700K this year or $1.2 million this year. Instead of making $1.2 million, you can make $10 million if you sign this contract. But of course, there's going to be some negatives to that. If they sign massive deals at a lower rate, you're not going to hit free agency. And I understand why players do it, because it is a safety thing. What if you have a crazy injury? I actually think it would be smarter for pitchers to sign contracts like this, because arm injuries seem like they could be more like career-ending type injuries than any sort of, batting injury. But these players continue to sign these massive contracts, and it's just, I think Corbin Carroll was the latest. It was like an 8-year deal, and it was a tough one. I mean, it just, I understand why they do it, but it's not a great deal. But that is the bottom line, is that Wander Franco deal is a great deal for Tampa Bay for a small market. He is going to be a superstar. He's basically already on the borderline of becoming one. This might be his breakout year, and you have that player to build around. They're also great at developing pitching. I know, unfortunately, what happened to Tyler Glass now, he just keeps getting injured, but they do still have Shane McClanahan, who started the All-Star game last year. They've got some good young pitching, and they're in first place by a mile right now in a very tough division, the AL East. So it is looking good right now that they should get this stadium deal done, especially if this attendance uptick continues and momentum continues for the Tampa Bay Rays. Not saying that this little start saved them, because it was already looking good that they were actually going to stay in Tampa Bay after the announcement came down in January that they were approved to seek a new deal. But this is just icing on the cake. I would be very optimistic if I was a Rays fan about them getting the money for a new stadium in Tampa Bay, in St. Petersburg, which really does surprise me, because I have heard a lot of issues about getting to games in St. Petersburg and things like that. There are people out there that'll say, well, they've got terrible attendance. There's no reason they should stay. Same thing with like Oakland, but is this a different situation than Oakland? Maybe. The one thing I'll say, the Rays are really good. They've got a really good front office. Oakland, on the other hand, I know they had the whole Moneyball thing, but they're just not trying as opposed to Tampa Bay, who is trying, and they are always seemingly in the playoffs every year. If they're not in the playoffs, they're always over 500, even with a very low payroll. So I do think it's a different situation than Oakland. Is there more fan support with the Rays? I mean, it seems like right now, obviously, there's more support in Tampa Bay than there would be in Oakland, mainly because the team in Oakland is so bad. And another thing I'll say, I think the Coliseum is way worse than Tropicana Field. I see people rank Tropicana Field as the worst stadium in the MLB. There's no way the Coliseum is better than Tropicana Field. It's just, the Coliseum is not a baseball stadium. I mean, look at the foul territory. It's just not a baseball stadium. It was not built for baseball. Well, I guess actually it was built for baseball, but just with the extra seating and stuff, it's just a complete mess. But either way, I'd be optimistic, and we'll see if this rendering ends up proving true. There's really no interior photos that I saw of what it would look like, but the seating of it would be very low. I would say the capacity, it might even be maybe like 30,000. I was going to say 28K, but that seems too low. I'd go like 30,000 with standing room out to 35,000, very similar to what Vegas is doing. These teams are downsizing, man. There's just no reason, especially for Tampa Bay, they already have attendance issues, to go with a 45,000 seated stadium at this point. So we will see what happens with them. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.